In this landmark case, an indigenous defendant named Clarence Earl Gideon was charged with a felony at a state court in Florida. He was also denied the right to counsel appointed by the court. The defendant proceeded to challenge this denial, arguing that it is right to assist with counsel as enshrined in the Sixth Amendment. In a unanimous decision, the United States Supreme Court ruled in his favor. The Supreme Court established the fundamental principle that any individual accused of a felony and who is incapable of affording an attorney must be provided with one by the state. The central issue in the case, whether the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, which guarantees individuals the right to a counsel, also applies to criminal trials in state courts. Previously, the United States Supreme Court had stated that the provision only applied to capital cases in the Beets versus Brady case. Nonetheless, Beets had left open the question of whether the clause on due process contained the 14th Amendment, extended to the right to counsel to cases that were not capital. Represented by Abe Fortes, a renowned attorney, Gideon argued that the Beets decision was not only inconsistent with fundamental principles of due process and fairness, but it's also outdated. He argued that the right to counsel, as contained in the Sixth Amendment, was a necessity and not a luxury in any criminal proceeding. He added that this independence of severity of the charges. In addition, he maintained, without the help of an attorney, that any indigenous defendant is effectively denied his constitutional right to a fair trial. Justice Hugo Black wrote the Supreme Court's unanimous decision on the case in which the court overruled the Beets versus Brady case, standing that the Sixth Amendment right to counsel ought to apply to all criminal trials, including those in state courts. The Supreme Court recognized that the right to counsel is imperative for fair trial because it ensures that the defendant gets enough representation, prevents the state from being overreaching in its power, and protects against uninformed and arbitrary decisions. The Gideon versus Wainwright has over the years stood as a landmark in the United States jurisprudence, upholding the fundamental principles that every American, regardless of their financial status, has a right to counsel during a criminal trial. This decision has made sure that the American criminal justice system upholds the ideas of due process and fairness for all. I am Princess Rito.